Coming up, comedian Matt Oswalt joins Illeana in just a minute.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
And now, it's the I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast, starring Illeana Douglas. Eavesdrop with Illeana as she interviews Hollywood's most prominent players about filmmaking, acting, and what really happens on the set of your favorite flicks and TV shows.
Hi, everyone. I'm Illeana Douglas. Welcome to I Blame Dennis Hopper podcast. I'm here in the studio with Tamara Berg, my co-host.
Hey, everybody.
And it's great to be back here. We're in the LA holiday mix.
Yeah.
One of the few people who actually loves California. Some people don't like it because there's not snow, but
Oh, I love it. But see, you grew up where there was snow.
Yes.
I did not. I am
Yes.
an all California gal, so this
Yeah.
is what I know.
so I love that. The only thing I miss is when I was back home in Connecticut, it was a tradition to go out in the backyard and cut down a pine tree, and I tried doing that here with my neighbors.
Did you get arrested?
Didn't go over well. What are you doing?
I've been growing that tree for 35 years.
I know. But it's great to be here in the holiday season with you.
It
Tamara.
is, and you're kind of holiday looking over there.
I'm trying with my green sweater.
Looks
Don't look
good.
too closely. It's got a few moth holes.
No, we're not. Just stop. So I was rereading your book last night.
Thank you. Thank you. You're the one.
I
appreciate it.
It's out in paperback
Old joke.
now, ladies and gentlemen, which I will
Great
remind you before the
stocking
end
stuffer.
of the. Yes, exactly. But I want to know.
Yes.
I know the answer to the question, but I want to hear how you're going to answer it. Have you ever been starstruck?
I'm like almost in a perpetual state of being starstruck.
Yes.
But I recently had an experience where when I was a kid, I was 13. The first autograph I ever got was Dick Cavett.
Nice.
And he was in Hartford, I don't know, promoting a book or something, and that's when I was there working in musical theater. And I brought this book of the Marx Brothers because he would always have Groucho on, and they were, pals and everything. So rather than bring his book, I was like such a wiseacre, like, he'll really be impressed if I bring this Marx Brothers book and have him sign that, which he did. There was a picture of him in it.
Oh, okay.
And so all these years later, I was going to be interviewing him on the TCM cruise. And again, it's one of those things you go, this could either go really well or really badly. And I was totally starstruck of him. I had the book and I was like, this may not be a good idea. But because I saw him and we barely talked before the interview. I mean, I was really nervous, but I really just prepared. Now, but I was terrified. I mean, he's to me, he's the best interviewer ever, and I always use his interviews as resource. And but it ended up going really well. He got a laugh right off the bat, and by the end of it, he was like, "We should go on the road," and so everything turned out really great. And then I brought out the book, and so it was really touching. He signed the book and did a good joke. He goes, "You're the one. I remember now." Made this kind of an old joke, like, "Remember me? I was 13. You signed my book in the mall in Hartford. God, you're the one."
How could I forget you?
But they took a picture of us, and so I definitely was starstruck around. Jesus, when I saw Kim Novak, I just was. There's always that shocking thing where I forget I'm in show business.
Right.
And I saw Kim Novak, and we were all getting on the cruise, and they were like, "Report to your fire drill." I was like,
Oh, right.
I tweeted, "I'm in a fire drill with Kim Novak. Like, my life is perfect. Like this." And if only that had happened, that would have been enough. But she's looking at me, and I would totally have given her space and not gotten anywhere near her. And she calls me over, and she goes, "Were you on 6 Feet Under?" She has a very sort of low voice, and I was like, "I was on 6 Feet Under." She goes, my husband and I loved your character." And I was like, "Oh, that's incredible."
My chiropractor was talking about your character on 6 Feet Under to me. She was just going on and
She
on
wanna
about
fix
how
my
amazing it
neck.
was. Yes, she would probably do it for free.
It's like a Seinfeld.
I'm pretty sure.
But how about you? What's your
Aside from you, it was very nerve-wracking when we met at McDonald's.
Yes.
I have a really embarrassing starstruck story, so I'm really happy to just tell everyone about it.
Sure.
Although a lot of people already know about it. So I've been doing AfterBuzz shows for many years, actually. I'm one of the original crew at AfterBuzz. And so one of the early shows that I did was the Sing Off, which is an a cappella competition show, right? And so one of the judges was Ben Folds. And so for the 2 seasons that I was first doing the AfterBuzz, it was an open joke with me and everybody who listened to the podcast about how I would call him my boyfriend, Ben Folds. And I had a mad crush on him. And they would tease me about it. And then we got invited to go to the finale. So we go to the finale, and there are all these pictures of me, like, petting his trailer and stuff. And, okay, not exactly petting his trailer, but, you know, there was, like, the sign outside his trailer, and there's a picture of me, like, standing next to it. And so then we go to the red carpet to do our interviews, and my team is behind me because there were 4 of us, and they're all like, there's Ben, and they're like shoving me up in the front, and I'm like so embarrassed. And you know, I walk up, and my opening line was, "Hi, I'm Tamara Berg. I have a mad crush on you." And you know, I needed to break the ice because I was so nervous, you know. And he was very nice and very gracious, but it was very funny. And now we want to get him on this podcast.
Yes,
we want him to come here.
Sparks will fly.
Yeah. He's a brilliant composer, actually. So, and he scores movies and things like that. So, but yeah, so my enthusiasm and geekiness was, you know, broadcast to the world, and that's how I like it.
I always have experiences where I read on, I'll be reading on Facebook. You know, it's sort of like me being the kid, you know, getting Dick Cavett autograph. People like, I once met Illeana Douglas on the #2 train, and you know, and I'm going, oh God, it's going to be something horrible. And it's always the same. They always go, and she was so nice and so down to earth. And
it's not been my experience.
Yeah.
Oh no, really?
That was the early me. Now you get the bitter me. But every story is, I'm shocked because I don't think of myself as a nice, kind person.
What?
I don't.
Oh my gosh.
I'm always like, I'm bracing, like, oh, what did I do? Give the guy a dirty look. It's like, and she was the nicest person. So.
Because you are.
Oh well, thanks.
You are.
I relate to the starstruck folks. I'm very, you know.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. And as I said, when I was a kid, I would always, you know, I'd get autographs for people. I got Peter O'Toole's autograph. I remember once.
Oh my goodness.
It's always funny when years later, and then I met Peter O'Toole.
Sure.
It's like, do you remember me? No.
Well, it's so funny because you can run into people anywhere here in Los Angeles. I mean, like wherever I was. I'm not going to say who, but I ran into an actress in the lingerie section of Nordstrom about 2 weeks ago. Ooh. And I happened to know a lot of her resume. And so I kind of sidled up next to her and I said, you were on such and such. And she was so surprised that I recognized her, because it's not like she's a huge star. She's just one of those people who works character work a lot.
Yes.
And I talked to her all about the show, and it was a really beautiful conversation that we had. And a lot of times I won't say anything because I'm more nervous than they are, and you know.
Right.
I mean, how do you feel when people approach you?
I think it's always, to me, the best thing to do is when people are very genuine and they say, I don't mean to bother you, or something. I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but I just want to say da-da-da, and then just exit. You know, not like, can we have coffee? Can we, you know?
Because you're probably one of those people that people think they're best friends with you, right? And that they do want to have coffee.
Say, like, would you, you know, we're having this fireman's ball, and would you be my date? Or I get, would you, I remember there was like a bus driver in Branson, Missouri that would write me and he'd be like, if you ever find yourself up in Branson, I'm like, okay, you know, and would you ever, you know, and they send you pictures of themselves and things like that.
Yeah, and so I in the McDonald's said, Illeana, would you please do you want a podcast with me?
Yes.
And here we are.
But I relate so much as I write in the, you know, but I do relate so much to the soothing quality of movie stars. You know, they just make everything better. You know, there was a story that I told about the guy who when I was doing To Die For with Matt Dillon, and this guy came up to Matt in a bar, and he was like, my girlfriend broke up with me, and could you just write, like, he's a really good guy and give him another chance? And, like, Matt he goes, sure, buddy, sure. You know, like, not like, what are you, out of your mind? You're going to base the whole relationship? He goes, absolutely, buddy. What's her name? You know, wrote it down, blah, blah, blah. And the guy, like, you know, you know, when you write, one of the hardest things, of course, is you try to, you know, how do you write? Like, the guy, like, held it. You know, like he had the key.
The Holy Grail.
Yeah, the parchment. Like, this will be the key to getting that girl back. And that's why I talk about this soothing, you know, the quality of these movie gods. You know, going to a movie, to me, is a very church-like experience. We're all facing the same way. We're looking up at a screen, you know.
A bright light, usually.
Yeah. And seeing these larger-than-life characters, and they get into your brain, you know, and they... You know, I know people that, you know, you have that experience. It's very hard to then see the person as a down-to-earth kind of a human being. Eventually, I think you do, you know, if you get to know them. And again, sometimes in my role of acting with someone, you know, but you always are, I'm very aware that they're a movie star. I wouldn't, like, joke. I wouldn't joke. I'm always very respectful. I wait for them to, you know, I remember working with Christopher Walken, and it was always like, you know, we were afraid, you know, I'd be afraid to ever say anything, but
really, as much as you are, like, so funny and so...
Well, I would try to tell, well, the funny part of that, I don't want to get too off topic, but it was a very low budget movie.
Okay.
And we were shooting the movie in New York City. And this is the same movie where I got the concussion, you know, that Dennis Hopper was in.
Oh my gosh.
But the movie was so low budget that they would pick up in a car. You know, they had the intern, so they would pick me up in the car, and then we'd pick up Christopher Walken in the car.
Like an airport shuttle.
Yeah. And then we would drive to work. And Griffin, you know, either at his own car, I guess, or he maybe was too close to the set, but Chris and I lived on the Upper West Side. And then when Chris wasn't working, you know, they would just pick me up. But sometimes, you know, one time I remember Chris was sitting in the back seat and I didn't see him. I mean, I swear I didn't see him. And I was sitting in the front seat and I was talking to the driver about, like, I go, God, what's it like driving Chris Walken? I go, does he give you that crazy stare? And the guy's looking at me like, are you out of your mind? Like, what are you doing? And he's like signaling me. And I literally I was like, oh my God, Chris, like, you know, and I tried to, that's like joking around. I tried to be like, hey, tried to, you know, joke it off. Yeah. And I said, I didn't see you there, Chris. And then deadpan, he goes, I know, I can do that sometimes. Make myself disappear. It's like genius, you know. So, but even that, so it's like in increments. After he says, you know, little things like that, I would try to find things to say to him, but oftentimes it would end in silence and then we would just ride
Lord.
the rest of the way.
Okay,
anyway,
let's bring Matt in.
Yes, I want to talk about Matt. First of all, he's got the best Twitter feed.
He does.
He is the screenwriter of the upcoming movie Mystery Science Theater, and he does punch-up work on a lot of movies. But I love this. You cannot talk. How does it feel to be talking about you as you enter the room? As I was
actually.
Must feel very powerful.
As I was plugging.
Yeah.
But I love the idea of being a secret punch-up.
Explain what that means.
Writer.
To anybody who might not know what that is.
I'll have Matt explain it.
Hello, Matt.
Hi,
Big
guys.
movies.
How are
Hi.
you?
I'm
Nice
so
to be
excited
here.
to be here on Black Hollywood Live, talking about all the urban plight of my fellow African American brothers and sisters.
Yes.
Let's get into it, guys.
That's
Come
what
on,
we
right
are.
there. 35 people died in Chicago.
Yes.
All right.
That's what we are. It'll switch out in a...
It'll switch out to my ugly mug. What's gonna happen?
No,
Are we gonna?
No, pretty soon we're going to have the ability. We don't have the ability yet to do clips.
We're gonna
getting there.
That
Yeah.
would be great
I
because
know.
you're like big into movies, so it would make sense to have like be able to throw to a clip from
Yes.
like a Hal Ashby film or a
I know.
Henry Jaglin film.
In
or
fact,
something.
every relationship I've ever been in, that's always the it's not a movie. Is that going to be one of your lines in your next
Yeah.
movie? No, actually, I would have a better line.
if they adapted your book into a movie, who would you want to play you?
That is
What
one of my
actress?
questions on my.
Are you serious?
Yes,
wow,
it is.
Wow, look at that, huh? See?
You know,
is.
that
Who
is.
would play you in the
Needs
movie
you
of
know
your
what I'm saying?
life?
Get out of here. I take it
I
from
guess
here.
I would.
Hey,
Well,
Okay,
you know,
see you
there's
later. Thanks, Matt.
there's
me out of a
young
job.
me because
Yeah,
the
that's what
story.
I'm saying because a lot of it takes place back in like the drive-in scene. Who would play you there?
God, we'd have to find some, great like 13-year-old saucy, there was a certain quality. I mean, you grew up. I'm a little older than you, but like when we were in the 70s, I feel like kids were all like, it was like little darlings. We were little like tough and
Little shits.
Yeah, we were like.
I was
had
in the 70s. Trust me,
high-waisted-
I was a little shit too. I was
had the
too.
high-waisted denim bell bottoms and the tube top and
Well,
Oh yes.
yeah.
way too much lip gloss.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
that you would wear
and-
around your neck like the.
Yeah.
No, we don't need to go in.
We would
Yeah.
constantly I just constantly.
I remember sneaking into Dress to Kill at like when I was like 10 years old, and it freaked me out.
Wow.
Seeing Michael Caine in that dress was like, oh my god, it scarred me for life.
That is,
Yeah.
yeah.
know?
That is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny on the show. We always start the show by asking, "What do you remember the first movie that you saw?"
The first movie that I saw that really resonated with me, that I still think about today, is probably Watership Down.
Okay, the animated film.
The animated film about the rabbits, because I thought it wasn't, because I thought I came from a world where if it was animated, it was adorable.
Right.
And it was cute and
Right.
everything wrapped up in 90 minutes and there were songs, and this movie was just about death. It was about rabbits dying in every scene in the most brutal, awful, horrific way possible, and it never gets better. The final scene in this movie is the hero that we followed just dies, and we see his spirit lifting off into the ever after, and it's just it's the most depressing,
Wow.
sad, and it stayed with me forever.
How old were you when you saw
I
it?
probably was 10ish, and they showed it at a drive-in theater in our neighborhood. So it was like a fun night out to go to drive-in and get some chili dog and popcorn. Hey, rabbits, and they're all just being mowed aside like Rambo. It was brutal, and I still think about it to this day.
In what?
You know?
Seriously
I
scarred
do.
you.
It's totally. I just think whenever that song "Bright Eyes" by Art Garfunkel comes on, I literally just have to pull over my car and just
Wow.
weep. It's really, it stayed with me. It stayed with me.
So interesting. And, every time we ask this question, the same thing happens. Kevin Pollak had like a revelation about.
Really?
Yes.
He said that the first movie he saw was It's a Mad World.
Yeah.
And how he became a comedian probably because
of it.
Sure.
seeing the movie, and he never had put those things together. There's just something.
So this is why I drive around LA weeping all the time. Is because of
And our-
because of
Art
this
Garfunkel.
Watership
You said
Down.
it, not
yeah,
us.
Yeah. That's brutal though. It's a tough film because, like I said, the poster for it is really unassuming and kind of cute. So you don't think
Yes.
you're gonna get this. I thought I was gonna get, Bugs Bunny, but
Right.
instead it's like Tarantino. It was really hardcore.
Do you think that movies make you grow up like fast in that way, that all of our generation are learning lessons?
I think
came
you
from
lose a little bit
movies?
of your innocence. Movies take away from some. I remember the first time I saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mentioned Watership Down. They all take away a layer of innocence. They just do. It's just a fact,
Nudity. Do you remember I write about it in my book.
The first nudity I probably saw when we first got cable. We had we got Cinemax. Remember Cinemax
Yes.
after Friday After Dark?
After Dark.
Yeah. And I used to
Cinemax After
sneak
Dark.
downstairs and watch like Porky's and Fast Times and what was the one? Private School was probably the big one. That was like that for some reason that was on a lot, and I think that was one of the first ones I ever saw. And hey, Phoebe Cates, you can't go wrong.
Oh, no,
it's
you
like that
can't.
one stays with you, okay?
You
I'm
bet.
crying in my car for a completely different reason with Phoebe Cates. But crying in the parking lot of a Target at 2 in the morning.
We had a conversation. I want to get to our book reading.
But also,
too.
I got into those. Remember those? The European, like the Emmanuels. Remember those? Like,
Yes.
yeah. Those were so odd. Emmanuel. I was like
a little
Emmanuel.
embarrassed to say I know that one.
Emmanuel in Bangkok and Emmanuel
Yeah.
in Africa and Emmanuel at Six Flags. Like all these connotation shows are the most bizarre.
Well, you're right. That's when cable was first starting. It was
Yes.
very limited.
They only had like
They
5
didn't have
movies.
much, and over in France they were making this stuff all. So they had product. They needed it. So they were. I remember the whole like what was that one? Young Lady Chatterley. I remember that
Yes.
one because the star of the film, Harley McBride, is married to Richard Belzer. That's why I remember that one. Yeah. And I saw them on the red carpet once, and I was like, that woman looks so familiar. And then it finally dawned on me, oh my God, that's the girl from. And so I sort of like rewatched it again. I'm like, that's her. Oh, how'd they meet?
Wow.
See, look at this. Aren't you glad you had me on to give you these tidbits of
Yes.
early 70s
The one that
softcore?
scarred me that I saw on when we got cable was the Tin Drum.
Yes. Oh my God. I forgot. It's a great one. Yeah. Okay.
And it was on constantly.
Yeah.
And I would always, we were saying, like, why do you keep watching a bad movie? I was young. I didn't understand the movie. I didn't even like it. And yet I was like, well, it's on. You know, we had nothing else to
Yeah.
do. So I was watching it again. I'd watch that movie again and again and again.
That little kid is so just mesmerizing. His performance is so devilish and creepy
Yeah.
with his big eyes and he was like sexualized and it was creepy, but it was also like I couldn't stop watching it. And yeah,
The scene that stays with me is there's a horrible scene where they cut the eels.
yeah, they do that. They would catch eels by putting a horse's head and tying it to like a chain and tossing it into the ocean.
yeah.
And for some reason, eels would
in the
go
movie.
inside of it,
Yeah.
and they'd pull the horse's head out of the ocean and they'd cut the head open, and all these eels
Yeah.
would pour out. That was a way you'd catch
This
eels.
is what we would be like.
And that was that one totally affected me too. That scene affected
We'd
me
be
too.
watching this. You know, my mom was a school teacher, so it's like, you know, come home. Like, you know, she wouldn't even look at what was on television. It would just
Yeah.
be like immediately start yelling at us. You know,
Yeah.
clean up and then start dinner. It was
Wait, they're pouring the horse's head out.
I know.
Let me. And your dad's like, I know another movie with a horse head that I'll introduce you to in a
Yeah.
couple years. Okay. This is
Well,
Hollywood
I
producer, and he,
always tell the story that my mother's the person who took us to see El Topo, which was
in the
which-
theaters you saw. Oh
yeah,
my God.
because the theater, again, that I
Oh.
write about in my book, there were 2 theaters in Middletown, the Palace and
right.
the Capitol, and
That's brave of them to show those movies. That's
they were very, you know, they were really interested in showing good films. You know, this was
Yeah.
like the late 70s, like probably 78, 79 or whatever. But
Topo, wow.
there was going to be the theater was closing, and my mom and her best woman friend, like, you know, we went to see El Topo, and again, like, me and the other son were like, wow, this is hard. Like, why are we watching this? You know,
I still have never been able to get through that movie. I've tried to watch it. I just couldn't. I don't know. Something about it just turned me off.
I know.
think-
We wandered out.
yeah, you wandered out into the street. Yeah. It hasn't-
There was a Friendlies next door, so
I love Friendlies. Are you kidding me?
if the movie, well, only us on the East Coast understand.
Yeah.
Friendlies.
I've
Friendly's
been.
ice cream.
Yeah.
We used to pile in the car every Friday with our dog, and we'd get our dog a
best.
little vanilla cup, and he'd lick it in the back. It was the cutest thing ever. We loved that. Yeah.
That was like our whole family. We could fight about anything, but
Mm-hmm.
you'd go to the Palace or the Capitol, and then you go to Friendlies and
Yeah,
have
Friendly's,
ice cream, and
exactly.
we really dissect the movie. And again, that was part of, you know, even if you didn't fully understand it, you were forming thoughts and ideas and critiques about it because you knew that that's what Friendlies was
Well,
for.
understand it or not, it resonated with you big time. I know
Yeah.
it did. There's no way. How old were you when you were seeing El Topo? What, in your teens or early teens?
Yeah, early
There's no
teens.
way that doesn't go away. That stays with you for a while. Same with
No.
Watership Down. Same with Dress to Kill. They just stay with you. You know.
Yeah. My parents also, they scarred me. Well, they would always see these European movies, and they scarred me by taking me. Yeah, I've told this story before. Why they thought I would like, it was a double bill, Death in Venice and Dirk Bogarde in The Servant, which is, again, a
Why would they possibly bring you
homoerotic.
to that? Why would they think you'd even have the slightest interest in sitting
But
through both of those films?
Again, it was like,
Not
why
even
is-
not even the New Beverly would show those back to back probably.
Death in Venice, which was like 9 hours long.
Yeah.
And my mom loved the movie so much that when we went on a trip to Venice, she actually had to recreate the scene, and I photographed her. But The Servant, I remember, was really, that gave me nightmares.
Never seen that one.
It's about Dirk Bogarde has a servant who he gets into a sadomasochistic relationship with him. It's those early British movies that are very kind of about the upper class and
they were all about class. Every film was like about the working class struggle and the upper class, and it was just it was a very common theme in
very disturbing.
And
I haven't been able to see it since. Like a lot of these movies that I saw that I'm like, I don't want to see that. I remember Welcome to L.A. We're going to be talking to Leslie Ann Warren in a few weeks, so I'm very interested talking about Alan Rudolph because he was a disciple of Robert Altman. And I remember seeing Welcome to L.A. and there was like a lot of nudity in that film, and my parents took me to it. And again, I was like, "Why am I seeing?" I became very conservative because I would think, "Why am I seeing?" My parents should not be.
They should not be. Have you done a nude scene in all the films you've done?
Oh yeah.
You were kind of nude in Cape.
Oh, tell us about all of them.
What was your nude? What was the big nude scene you did? You weren't nude in Cape Fear. You were just kind of see-through. I remember that.
I was in my underwear.
Yeah, but that wasn't. I don't
in
count.
Cape Fear. I was naked I've had more love scenes than most. There was a movie I did, Point of Origin. I was naked in that with Ray Liotta. Okay. And then I did a movie called Hacks, which I always tell the story. Had to have a sex scene with Stephen Ray. Remember him from The Crying Game?
I do.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
And we were in a hot tub, and I was like, you're trying to be sexy. You got this scene, and it's Stephen Ray, and he's attractive.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking, it's going to be fun. That's why I got in movies, doing better than I did in high school. So I'm in the mood, I'm in the thing, and I look cute. I was in a cute body and everything, and we're kind of getting into it. We're in the tub, and he goes, "Oh Christ, look at us, like two chickens stewing in a pot." It's like, great, and action. That's always.
Yeah.
I find that, Matt, you either have like the two. It's either they're way overboard, and you're like, oh God, or they want to rehearse beforehand. Or they're not into it at all. They're horrified.
Yeah.
They think they're fat. They want to wear a T-shirt. That's usually what happens. And
it's refreshing to think that men have those insecurities.
Oh my God!
But the girls usually can't because that's like in your contract to be naked and they know that that's a draw for the movie. So it's like we'll let the guy get away with being in a shirt or a body double, but the girl, sorry, you gotta take one for the team here and go.
I've had a lot of like nude scenes with.
That's what I tell all the women in my movies. That's what I tell them.
Your story, and you're sticking to it.
In fact, Judd Apatow always says that the first nude thing he ever directed was a love scene between me and Gary Shandling.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember that.
We were in bed, and again, Gary was like, got out of bed, went to wear a there was all this drama. I'm the one, like, I'm topless. I'm sitting there, everything's fine. And Gary's like, maybe it's better if I have a T-shirt. Maybe,
because he's also so insecure about that. I think he would be very...
So that's what I find is the tension of, like, not only do you have the crew and everybody staring at you, but you're in this unrealistic thing with someone that you immediately just feel like, okay, they feel so uncomfortable, and you're trying to do everything you can to help them without being like, that's okay, don't worry, you're okay, But
what you're talking about is rather tame. I mean, you're in a hot tub, you're in bed. Talk about the actual, like, love. You've never done that, though.
That's Point of Origin.
I'm thinking of, like...
Heavy duty, me and Ray Liotta.
Like Last Tango in Paris level.
It was Point of Origin. I had to have handcuffs on, and it was pretty heavy duty.
You've heard about what happened in the Last Tango in Paris, haven't you?
No, tell me about what happened in the Last Tango.
You've been on a cruise ship, I know.
I've been on a
I'm not
cruise.
sure if you were talking about it before I got in here. But
No,
I've been with like Jerry Lewis.
You and I talked about it.
You've been out to the ocean.
I've been in like San Juan with Jerry Lewis.
Trump is president, just so you know. It's still
oh my God!
No. And even worse.
Stop making things up.
Well,
so this story just broke the other day.
Bertolucci, the director, admitted that he and Marlon had kind of conspired to create this scene. That it's the infamous butter scene where he moves her up, and you know what I'm getting at.
Yes, I do.
And apparently that was not consensual sex. They did it on camera without her knowing. He just did it, and it was something that Bertolucci and Bernard and Brando did, because as the director said, he wanted Maria Schneider to react not as an actress but as a frightened girl. So he literally filmed a rape on camera. And after the movie, for years, Maria Schneider had told this story and nobody believed her because who the hell are you? And it messed her up for a long time. And people used to like mock her, like, Brando, he wouldn't have done that. And now she's kind of being vindicated, like
and
literally 30 years later.
Yeah, she passed away. She's not alive anymore.
Away.
And her quote was that she felt, quote, a little raped during it. But she also said that it was definitely not consensual and that she definitely did not know what was going to happen.
No.
And they did it under the guise of, we want her real reaction, we don't want her acting.
Yes, exactly. I wanted a real girl's fearful reaction of being raped,
which is the really horrific part.
And we're gonna get a film crew and stand 2 feet from you while you're being raped and have everyone stare at you and put it on film on 35 millimeter for the rest of time, so we can. And if you tell the story to anybody, we're gonna call you a liar and destroy your career, which they probably did in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So. Hooray for Hollywood!
It's so,
it's a magical thing.
I think it's I think it's very tough to watch the film. Then
I've never seen that movie. Have you seen it? Obviously?
I have seen it.
I've never seen it. It's not my.
Let's go together.
I've tried to watch it once and I couldn't get through. I just got bored me.
It's very. You can tell that a lot of it is very experimental.
It totally is. You can tell it's probably a lot of it is probably Bertolucci, a cameraman, and then Maria and Brando in a loft just making stuff up. You can tell they're just making a lot of the stuff up as they go, and it's like
yes. Now I'm going to say, not in Brando's defense, but he also said after the movie that he felt betrayed by Bertolucci in the sense that he made him, put all this stuff into, bare his soul in a way that he was not comfortable with either.
And I wonder if maybe he misinterpreted, Brando did, the whole rape scene. Maybe he didn't. Maybe Bertolucci told him one thing, and then Brando just went for it as an actor, not realizing that Schneider really didn't. Maybe he thought that she was in on it, or so you don't know, because the fact is both of them are dead. So it's funny that he would immediately sell out Brando in the he didn't say I did it. He said me and Brando did it to take the
responsibility off
exactly.
himself,
So.
I think that there's an unspoken rule in the past that, and it's very hard, where are you crossing that line? And I've said this before, I've never had a great experience with a director that's abusive or is trying to psychologically get a performance out of you. The best directors are the ones like Marty Scorsese and Gus Van Sant, who create an environment in which you have total trust. They don't start anything until you're comfortable. If you're uncomfortable, you discuss it. And anytime I've had that experience where like the person's sort of trying to get in my head or says one thing to somebody and then something to somebody else, I don't feel that that's a good environment. But in those days,
the day of the auteur, the 70s was a time of great, amazing movies, but also a lot of egotistical auteurs who were given carte blanche to
and I think
play by their own rules.
I think that when you're in that situation, I've certainly had that situation more in terms of safety than in doing a sex scene, where you're not safe, but you can't speak up, because if you speak up, you're a complainer. But
you know what that reputation is.
Do you mean psychological safety or physical safety?
Physical safety.
Really?
I've done many, many things that are incredibly unsafe. And, you just have to do them. Otherwise, you risk being labeled as a complainer.
There was just an Expose News story about that 2 weeks ago. Because after the Slates for Sarah thing happened, where people died in Georgia with the train on the train trestle.
Yes, yeah.
There was a story. I think it was a local news story talking about that. About you're a complainer, you're a problem, and it was crew that was actually
Right.
talking about it behind a curtain, so they couldn't be identified
Right.
because they knew they would lose their jobs or not get hired again.
Yeah, you can get
I
blackballed
mean,
so
and
easily.
I know people who have been permanently injured to the
Yes.
point where they can't work anymore.
Well,
because safety was ignored.
Wow.
I think that happens. I also think that the psychological scars of being an actor when you're doing these scenes, they're real. When I was shooting that scene with De Niro, was I always 17 hours,
Yeah.
it becomes real after a certain point. And what you're left with when you're back alone in your hotel room is, it's what I write about in the book. I mean, I cried for hours. I mean, everything hurt.
Yeah.
It was,
Oh my gosh.
I bet.
you're doing, you've been trained as an actor, but there's a certain part of your brain that lets go in order for the camera to film you and, to capture something that's real. However, the scars that are, come afterwards, people talk about, working with Stanley Kubrick and, just the mind games.
yeah.
How do you recover from that? Is it just
I don't
time?
think you don't. You don't
You just-
recover.
Hopefully, you age a little bit and get some wisdom behind it, and
Yeah.
But there's also always therapy.
I think it's-
sometimes you.
Well, that's why there's that
Can you
amazing.
use it though? Can you use it in your acting? I mean, I bet you can. I bet a
Right.
lot of actors do. You use the pain to help you.
I think we learn to
boy.
compartmentalize
Yeah.
situations.
I hope you do.
I mean, listen, that
Yeah.
situation, in order to sustain 17 hours,
Yeah.
I had to keep calling upon very painful things in my own life.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is that journey of an artist, and Sanford Meisner, my acting teacher, would always say very strongly, no, you suffer for your art. It's a lie to say that there's no suffering that goes along with art.
Yeah.
There just is.
There is.
That was his opinion, and that's how I felt.
But it's easy for him to say. It's everyone suffers in a different way, and you can't just make a broad statement like that and expect
agree.
every single person to just say, oh, well, then I guess that's just part of being an actress, and I'll just shrug it off and move on. No,
Right.
Some of the the psychological stuff you go through it stays with you.
I think that, in turn, you got me thinking about that scene now, is that because the scene became an object of ridicule, that probably, had it been this, they're not doing it like Clute, and talking about how brave she was. Rather, it was the opposite. You know what I mean? I think just
Yeah.
SNL and, John Belushi, when they did a dueling.
They did? I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Oh, I
I
never
remember
saw
they
that.
did like a
Oh,
dueling
interesting.
Brandos, and it was like, pass me the butter. Whoa, so I think that
Okay.
that probably adds insult to injury
Yeah.
if something, happened to you and then now it's being kind of made fun of as
Being
something
mocked.
that's obscene or gross. I mean, listen, to me it's a very uncomfortable scene in the movie. I don't think you need it. I don't know why it was there. It's
Again, it was a time of the auteur. It was a time when
Yeah.
people had carte blanche, and you could get away with stuff like that on a set.
Yeah.
Because it was the 70s, and it was just the way it was back then.
I mean, but you hear about these things all the time, things that happen on Cassavetes movies, and
Yeah.
you know,
Paul Schrader. I mean, holy Toledo.
yeah,
Henry Jaglin sometimes. some
Yeah.
Psychological. I've heard some things.
you know.
Yeah, I shouldn't say names probably, but I don't know.
No, I mean they're well written about. They're
Yeah,
well
that's true.
documented.
I mean, nothing I'm saying is even remotely.
You know, and this is going back to the glory directors, you know, the Raoul Walshes and the Howard Hawks,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
People were dying, you know, like I love TCM, you're watching a movie in a different context, you know, it's like now you have the internet. So it's
Yeah.
like, oh, they died with their boots on. And then I look it up on the internet. They're like hundreds of extras died.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
they had tripwires. Horses were, this person died. I was like, no investigation. Nobody said anything. They just died.
The original Titanic, and I remember the scene where they all fall into the water and they're floating there. They shot it in a pool in London. Well, this is before they had heated pools, and they just literally had people just jump in this pool. It was freezing, and people were getting hypothermia, and people passed out. And then when you watch the movie, you can see people literally just like bobs, just bobbing up and down because they're just frozen stiff. They had to drag them out and give some resuscitation. It was like, and they would keep, they okay, gotta reshoot it, push them all back in. These poor extras are like, freezing all night long. It's like, God.
But we're getting a free meal.
Exactly.
There
Not
was
even that probably back then. It's like,
No,
oh,
maybe not.
God, it's brutal.
There was an interesting conversation with the executive of HBO, because he was called upon. These journalists were asking him, why is there so much violence depicted against women, specifically rape, on HBO? And then he tried to defend it by saying, well, we spread around the violence, which that didn't go over so well. And the guy's like, no, you're not answering my question. You're not showing men being raped. You're showing women being raped. And you kind of didn't really have, this is a go-to in the world of violence.
My whole thing is here's the thing with like rape on HBO and Game of Thrones. It's the easiest way to make a character sympathetic, or to make somebody hate somebody or like somebody or root for somebody, is just to have them raped. It's the easiest, simplest way, plot device to
Right, because there's
interesting.
no ambiguity there.
Exactly. I think it's a tool that people use. We want her to be this very sympathetic character that we all root for, and we want him to be dialogue. Let's just have him rape him. We'll have a raper,
God,
and then we'll do that.
that's chilling.
They do that a lot on Game of Thrones, a lot, and it just seems like I don't know.
I think that's a really clever insight that you just made right there, because it is true. I mean, there's no ambiguity, and it's very clear
It's easy
what
to
everybody's
do.
place is.
You're going to get nudity out of it, which is good. You're going to get a rape, which people will talk about, which is good for the show. So it's it's sort of like a you can't go wrong thing. It's like
wow. But that's
I don't know.
that's
just how I feel about it. It gets to be almost pablum after a while. It's like, okay, I get it. I get what you're trying to do.
So what would be the equivalent sympathetic to a man? Shoot his child or something.
Yeah. Shoot his child, or cut his dick off, which they did on Game of Thrones. Yeah, cut his dick off.
God, good thing I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
I've got TCM on 24 hours a day. I never leave the yard.
I never leave the yard.
It's the new, I'm like, I don't want to know.
I don't want to know.
That or the Food Channel.
I just want to watch Top Hat and just dancing and Ginger Rogers. Remember that? Remember when people actually just dance with each other instead of fuck each other's brains out?
See,
I
those
think
are
they fuck, right?
those,
Yeah,
the,
you
the,
can. Keep
the
doing
kind
it.
Thank
of
you.
violent heroes I love are Cody Garrett and White Heat, Jimmy Cagney and.
Mine are always Western heroes, because rarely do the Western heroes rape. It's all about shooting. It's rarely there's very few Westerns where there's rape, or if there is, it's at least it's implied.
It's off camera.
It's off. Yeah. There's a scene in The Searchers where they realize, but it's all off camera, and that. Okay.
Is that there was a big? Some people feel it's the best Western of all time, The Searchers. I disagree with that, but I have other favorites that I like.
I do too.
What's your favorites?
I love Red River. Is probably my favorite
Red
one.
River.
Fort Apache, I think is. I think The Searchers is a little bit better than Fort Apache. But give me a couple of years.
Shane is my my favorite Western, and some people cringe. They don't like that at all.
I like Shane a lot. I think The Searchers is a little bit better in my book, but I just think that Red River is just the
Red River's
it's
great.
Just such a fun. I love that movie so much.
I am sort of getting into what they call the psychological westerns, with Jimmy.
El Topo. Isn't that psychological lesbian western?
Yes.
With mutant kids. Yeah.
But this one I just discovered called The Naked Spur. Have you seen that? Barbara Stanwyck.
Yeah. Is that? Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
That one's very interesting. I'm not sure of the director, but they're called psychological westerns.
You ever see the Tall T?
Oh, The Tall T. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that with Robert Ryan?
It is with Robert Ryan, and Randolph Scott, of course, as our hero. It's a great. It's kind of a psychological western,
yes,
because it's very few people in one little specific area, and it's all just talking their way out of stuff. It's a fascinating movie.
Quick sidebar on Robert Ryan, one of my favorite psychopaths. It's just
really
the minute you
what
see
other
him.
movie was he in? That was what's another psychopath movie?
What put him on the map was a movie called Crossfire. And it's, I'm not sure again of the director. That's why we need our internet here so we can. But Crossfire, he plays a racist army guy who pins a murder on African American servicemen, and then they have to, I think it's maybe Jewish. Yeah, anti-Semitic. Excuse me, anti-Semitic. And he tries to pin it on this other guy, this murder that he committed. And
is that a noir? Is it a?
And it's a noir.
Okay.
And that's what put him on the map.
Interesting.
And but then he was in.
I bet I've seen that. I just for some reason I get my noirs mixed up because I go to a lot of those noir fests and I sort of see a bunch in a row and I sort of forget about them because they all blend together. So it's hard to
Yeah.
I bet I've seen it.
There's another one that he did that I love with Ida Lupino. I'm blanking on the name, but again, he plays like a psychopath who he's looking for work, and she's like, "Well, I guess so. My husband's out of town. Maybe you could stay here for a week or so." And he's like a complete psycho, who ends up sort of trying to kill her.
You can stay here for a week.
And then my favorite is a movie called Clash by Night, which I talk about all the time. It's my favorite Marilyn Monroe performance. This is Fritz Lang, who's, speaking of crazy directors.
Yeah.
But Robert Ryan plays a projectionist. So it's kind of an unusual thing. He runs this projectionist in the movie theater. And Barbara Stanwyck, after a string of bad relationships, comes back home and she settles down with this guy. It's not loving, but he's a fisherman. He makes a good, good. His name is Paul Douglas, the actor, but he's sort of a big loafing guy, and Robert Ryan is his best friend, and of course Robert Ryan's just bad and comes around, and her name is May, and he's like, you're gonna go for it, May, and he finally wears her down. They have this affair, and it breaks poor Paul Douglas's heart. But Ryan he just looks like he's ready to explode at any minute.
He's always on the verge of just going completely batshit and just taking a gun out and just shooting everyone in a cafe.
I know.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about something. We had this interesting cathartic experience together.
Yes, we did.
The day after the election.
The night after the election.
The night we had planned to do this reading, of the book, I Blame Dennis Hopper, at a wonderful bookstore called Skylight. And Matt was hosting and interviewing me, and we were going to have people read. And no one ever thought the election was going to go any other way, except for...
Well, I remember about a month before it, I was one that called you and said, hey, you realize that this reading is taking place the night after the election. Then we laughed, going, well, of course Hillary's going to win, and everyone's going to be in a celebratory mood. It'll be fun. There you go. So... didn't think anything of it, but what happened instead was...
it was I literally that day thought, well, no one's going to come.
Me too.
I said, no one's going to come to this thing. Everyone's going to be home drinking.
And it was so the opposite of that.
Yes.
We all needed some place
to
go.
We showed up, and
Tamara was there.
I was not... I mean, I was just bummed out. I was just... The whole mood of the city just felt sad and depressed. And so I got there early, and there was nobody there. I brought some wine.
Thank God. Thank you for bringing the wine.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I go,
Yeah.
I've never done this before, but I'm I need a drink.
Yeah.
I just need to calm myself.
Well, I got there about an hour early, dropped the wine off. There's nobody there, and I go, "This is gonna suck." And then I went to a coffee shop down the street for just to read, just to be by myself. And then I walk back, and what do I see? The whole place is filled up. Full. Packed.
Standing room only.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I was like, why are these people? And then we went upstairs and kind of chatted a little bit.
We had Ben Mankiewicz from TCM.
Yeah, Annette O'Toole, great Annette O'Toole. Ray Steenhorf from Better Call Saul was there to read.
Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly, my goodness. And
Kate
McCucci. All these great people. And they were all excited to just be out of the house, I think. Because we had all been cooped up watching the election coverage. We just needed to go outside and realize, you know what, there's actually things to do other than just sit at home and be depressed and watch you know, Anderson Cooper's hair turn even whiter. There are things you can do, you know. So, and it was an amazing night. I mean, the woman at Skylight, the manager of Skylight, emailed me later that night and said, of all the events we've had here, we've never had people laughing that much. I mean, people were just cracking up all night long. It was cathartic. It was a cathartic experience for us, for everyone. I mean, I felt
so
good.
inspired.
And I was so glad that we had it the night after. It went so well.
Well, you go through these waves of, you know, you write a book, but there was something about the format that we did that night of usually the person goes up and read and it's sort of stayed, but because of the level of what had happened and the emotion that was there.
I just went out first and just chatted with him and joked about, you know,
about
the
world's
whole
over.
thing. Yeah, and I needed to get people or I'm not going to be serious. I'm going to be mocking this fool that just became president, and I think everyone realized it and started laughing. And and then Illeana came and you started sharing your experiences. From an election. Where was it from? Something happened that was sort of similar. I forget. You tied it together very well.
I'm trying to think which one.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was when you first came down.
It may have been was it when John Kerry lost? Or I don't know, just the experience of just that starting out in the morning and live in West Hollywood. You know, it was this multicultural line. Where everybody was chatting. And
I forget what you said, but whatever it was great. And then we just went on to the readers, and everyone was so good. I mean, Rhea, everyone just knocked it out of the park. They were so good.
And we added.
Annette was amazing, of course.
Yeah, Annette started the ball rolling, so and of course Jennifer is the
And we ended it with you and Jennifer doing a scene from that Bella Mafia, the great Bella Mafia.
We have to do a screening of Bella Mafia.
I keep saying if you want
to talk through it.
I was saying do like a whole Mystery Science Theater kind of thing where you sit there and talk through you and Jennifer. Maybe get like Natasha Kinski just because I have a crush on her. I'd love to be in a room with Natasha Kinski. Who wouldn't want to be in a room with
I would love to.
Kinski?
She keeps threatening that she's going to show up, you know, but she's painfully shy.
I know, yeah.
And I'd kill to have her.
Yeah, I'd love to have you three and in the front row. Get a couple comics to just sit there and riff with you guys. Show it at Cinefamily. And then maybe like during the movie, pause the movie, then you and Jennifer go up and act out some of the scenes. Like
some of the people sat are no longer with us. Dennis Farina no longer with us.
No longer with us.
He played our father. Vanessa Redgrave played our mother.
No way. Is she still alive, right?
Yeah, Vanessa.
There's no way you get her. No.
She was, as I said, we bonded over, you know, because
I think just you and Jennifer and me and a couple comics, it would be great. We could knock the what out of that thing.
You'll see in the movie again, me and Jennifer like specifically making fun of our performances.
And there's a great thing in the book about this bowl of nuts that the director puts there. And if you watch Bella Mafia, which is on YouTube by the way, somebody put it on YouTube.
Oh, they did? Oh, good.
I went home that night and watched it. There's a scene with the nuts, and you'll see the nuts right there, and you'll start laughing because you'll realize that just that little 2-second clip took a 20-minute long screaming match between Illeana and the director. But the nuts are there. They got the nuts on camera. So
can't you shoot the scene without eating the nuts? It was and it ended up with
Would Scorsese have ever done that to you? Would he have like paused the scene during Goodfellas and say, "Hey, that whiskey sour on the bar, are you going to drink that or not?" Would he ever have done that to you?
No, see, the beauty of Marty is that he says, come here, and he goes, "This is great, it's fantastic, this is amazing," you know, even if it's horrible.
Yeah.
He's like, "This is incredible, this is incredible." He goes, the nuts, what do you think? What do you think? And I go, I don't know. I'm like, eat them nerds. He goes, it's great. I mean, you want to try one without it? Or try one with it? See, he's very flexible because his motto, which I carry through as a director, is it's going to take you just as long to argue to not do something. Just shoot it.
Why waste the actor's emotions off camera when you can tap it? Just shoot it and
shoot it in the editing room. It may work. It may work. He said that, like it may work. I learned so much from him about editing because he's like you never know in the editing room what you want is options. You just want options. You may never know. For God's sakes, maybe somebody screws up a line and you go, "Oh, geez, I've got the thing of her," and she puts the nut in her mouth. And but that's how a great director thinks.
That's a great frame of mind. Have it as
But-
long as you have options. That's all I want is options.
I think that for somebody like David, and that he sees a picture. Here's the picture. Here's a picture. We'll put a nice bowl of nuts there. She sits. She's pretty. She's got her dress. There's but you don't need.
He doesn't think why are the nuts there. He doesn't care about that. That's not the point. The point is there are nuts framed there.
Yeah.
To fill the picture. That's why I did that.
Exactly.
Whether or not you want to eat them is
That would be ridiculous.
irrelevant. I don't care. It doesn't matter. They're there for
Yeah. So of course, there's somebody from me. I'm like, if they're there. Tell Warren Beatty not to stop eating on camera. He eats in every film. Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Do you ever see the movie Heartburn?
Yeah.
It's like he literally is the best on screen.
All he does the entire movie. He's clearly doing it. And Warren Beatty and Bugsy, every scene he's eating something. He's in a
always
very
eating.
loud utensils, and he's doing something weird like.
I've mentioned this numerous times because I'm obsessed with Warren Beatty. Watch Reds. I'm like, again, it's another movie where another thing Warren Beatty does is he exits and then he comes back. Did you ever notice that?
You know what? I bet if I watched Bugsy or another one of his movies, I would see him do that.
Does
But
it all the
I
time.
probably have never just unconsciously seen it.
Oh
but I
my
bet
God,
he
he does it in Shampoo. I'm like, oh, he's doing it. He's doing the false exit.
Oh, he does it in Bullworth. I remember a couple scenes of
the
Bullworth
old-
where he walks in, he starts to walk out of a room, then
He
there's something
turns
else.
around and
Yeah.
he sort of shakes his hair because he's got that amazing hair.
Yeah, he wants the profile. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He
But
knows
he's-
what he's doing.
I-
Have you seen his new movie, the one about Howard Hughes?
The rules don't apply. Yes, I've seen it.
You have?
I love Warren Beatty. I wish he had, and the acting is superb. There's every great actor in the.
Yeah, a lot of great actors in it. It just doesn't come together.
It just is. He's great, and I just wish it had been a full-on Howard Hughes bio. That's just my.
Are you saying it strays away from Howard Hughes and goes into other stuff?
Yeah,
that
it's got
probably
a
isn't
dual
as
storyline. It has a love
okay.
story, and then it
Yeah,
has.
see, that's weird because
Hard
if you look at
Hughes.
The Aviator, at least they were smart enough to just let this guy is too kooky. Let's just keep it on him the entire time. There's no sense going anywhere other than Howard Hughes.
I guess having, Shampoo is just such a brilliant movie. Shampoo is actually personally my favorite Warren Beatty performance.
Okay.
And so I love watching him on screen. And when he's on screen, I love it. So for me, I would have killed to see 2 hours.
Of just him
Yeah.
doing. Does he do a good Howard Hughes?
Excellent. It's
Okay.
great. He's great. As soon as he comes on, there's a sense of relaxation of like, I love
Okay,
This is
yeah.
great.
You
It's
settle
who I
into
want
it,
to
yeah,
see.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I love Bullworth, I love watching him act. I wish he were in
More stuff, but
More
he's
movies.
just his own. Does it his own way, That's what
yeah.
it's got to be.
So who knows? It would be fascinating to hear the reasons and did the Aviator change the script? I don't know.
Who knows? Because I don't know how long ago he started writing this thing. Who knows?
I mean, again, in
He's such a secretive guy, which I kind of like that about him. That I think we know too much about celebrities nowadays. I like that we don't know that much about certain, celebrities.
You know what's so
I
funny
revel in that.
about people like that? You're like, he's so secretive. And then as soon as you said that, I was like, except for the time I saw him at Farmer's Market at a Starbucks. I was like, because we live in L.A.
Yeah,
So
but was
it's
TMZ there? No, that's a
No.
good thing. See, that's good,
but every once in a while-
he doesn't call TMZ like Ryan Reynolds and tells them, "Hey, I'm going to be here with my shirt off. Come and take a photo of me."
That's always
so I
my
can-"
favorite
yeah.
thing. You're like, you never see them out. I'm like, except at the supermarket up in Bel Air.
Really? So you'll see him at the farmer's
I
market.
see Leonardo DiCaprio. I won't say the supermarket, but there's a supermarket on Sunset that he frequently goes to.
on Sunset Boulevard. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Frequently.
Okay.
Oftentimes.
I
I would almost call it, again, the supermarket to the stars. So many people
I
seen
see
there
Tim
famous.
Curry at Gelson's. I saw him once, and he was with a woman. He was in a tuxedo. He was with a woman. He was a little tipsy. He was making jokes with people in the line. He was being utterly charming and funny.
Uh-huh.
And then about 6 months later, I went back there, and he was there in a wheelchair
Oh, no.
because he had had a stroke. He couldn't talk. He was just like, But I heard he's getting better, which is great.
Yes.
But I love the fact that he didn't like become one of these recluses. He's like, you know what? I still got to go shopping. So fuck it. Let's get the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Let's go there. He was in sweats. He wasn't looking great, but he's got to live his life. You know.
We were talking about this at the
It
beginning.
was such a weird dichotomy just to go from,
No
from that
kidding.
to it was like, oh my god.
Are you ever starstruck? Do you get starstruck seeing people? Do you approach people when you see
I've never
them?
really been starstruck. Probably when I worked with Robin Williams once, and I was just terrified because I was going to be directing him and acting him with this thing, and he was. But the more we chatted on the phone before this thing, the more utterly charming, kind person who just he's about the work. He's all about the work, and so all he would talk about was the script and how to make it better, and then I realized, oh, he's just an actor. He's wanting to make things better, and then working with him was a dream. So I wasn't at all as starstruck by him as I thought I was going to be because of all the conversations we had had on the phone leading up to the shoot. He was just so charming.
When you see
was so
people
charming.
on the, in LA, do you let them have their space?
Oh,
or-
I never talk to. Oh, I always do. I never ever talk to anybody.
I always what we were saying. It's
Are you starstruck? Are you?
Yeah, I
who?
told my story. It was an embarrassing story. But I mean, but generally speaking, though, when I see people, at the grocery store or whatever, I'll give them a look. And unless I'm a, huge fan, I generally don't approach,
Really?
because I want to give them they're having, they're going about their life,
Yeah.
So I mean, but I probably don't see as many fabulous people as you guys do.
Well, when you see people, this is a really funny story. I won't tell the name of the actress, but it's a famous actress. And I had a shoulder injury, so I went to, they call it, I don't know, shoulder rehab or whatever. They call it PT, the
Physical
PT.
therapy.
Yeah.
But I'm so old school, I call it physical. I have to go to physical therapy. So where I would always see her, we chat, how's your knee, how's your shoulder? It's like 6 months later, I'm at a premiere and I'm like, hey, and she kind of looks and I go, we're in rehab together. And she goes, she literally, and I
I had no clue.
go, we're in rehab. I go, rehab? We were in rehab. I'm like, don't you remember, And then I was finally, she goes, you're not supposed, people were like, you're not supposed to talk about being in rehab. I was like, what's the big deal? Like, it literally was like like a gag in a movie.
Yeah,
What's the big deal?
Yeah.
We were in rehab.
So clearly,
Oh my God.
PT is not the only rehab this woman has been into, and then she clearly did not. Yeah. You should have said shoulder. You should have said shoulder. Then
I
she would have
finally realized after all the horrified
That's funny.
looks.
glare she was giving at you. Yeah. That's funny.
Matt, tell us. Thank you so much for being here.
Who am I filling in for? Because I'm like the George Gobel of podcasts. Because
I love
this is the third time.
God, what a great
This
reference.
is the third time I've filled in for somebody on a podcast. So I kind of
Well,
come
we
in
want
late.
her to come back.
Who was it? I'm curious. Tell me. You can say.
Yeah,
I
we
say?
could say. Can we
Oh.
say? Yeah, sure.
It is
was
the wonderful and talented Lorraine Newman.
Oh, I love her. Okay.
Yeah.
She got busy, and we were going to talk about horror movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's a big horror movie
Well,
fan.
I told you I snuck into Dress to Kill as a kid. That one resonates. That one has freaked me out. That one really. Also, the original Halloween. Those two, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Although, is that really a horror movie? That's just like slasher.
Yeah,
Different.
slash.
Sure, I mean,
So
yeah.
those three, just because I saw them as kids when I was much too young, I should not have seen them.
Yeah.
Snuck into them, saw the blood and gore, saw the intensity, and it messed me up.
Well, what about that scene at the end of Dress to Kill? Carrie, when she reaches in that to me.
When
that
Nancy Allen is in the
that was the
shower. Oh
scariest.
my God.
That's
Do you know Nancy Allen? Are you friends with her?
I do not know her. I know her a little bit through
Okay.
Twitter because
Oh, she's on Twitter. Okay.
I promoted the film quite heavily in 1941.
Yes, that's
which
right.
she's
Okay.
in and terrific in, and I would absolutely love to
I
have
always thought
her
she was a
in.
great actress, then she kind of just fell off the map after
Yeah.
RoboCop. I didn't see much from her anymore.
I
and
know,
was like,
I know.
I thought she'd be a great actress in her 40s and 50s and moving on. And
Yeah,
but she
sometimes
just-
who knows? But I
Who
would
knows?
believe me, she's on my wish list. I would love to get
great.
her in and
be great.
talk about some of her movie
And
roles.
if she backs out, I could fill in again. 'cause
You're
that's what I do
definitely
best.
coming back. I'm
That's what I
going to
do.
tell you right now. You're
Really?
coming back.
I am, okay.
We may actually book you.
Wow. And my
We
own
want to have the
cooking,
ability.
You know?
Well, we're going
So
to
I'll
set
be
up the
allowed
ability.
to eat the food out that you bring. I won't have to
Hey,
just stand
you
there
can
and
take some food home with you. We've got plenty.
What is that? Everyone's raving about that. She brought this this
She?
dip.
It's me.
Which one? I don't know who did.
Tamara.
Oh,
Tamara made
I
it.
wasn't sure if it was you too.
It was
I don't know.
me,
Okay.
yeah.
I shirked my peanut butter duties.
The vegan.
The
it's
vegan,
vegan walnut lentil pate.
Holy Toledo! Say
It's
that 10 times
delicious,
fast.
isn't
Vegan
it?
walnut lentil pate.
And there are other things
God.
that are very not vegan out there too.
Jesus.
But,
We have some
but we
cake.
always have snacks.
We're definitely not on
always
Black
have snacks.
Hollywood Live bringing in vegan.
No.
They don't have that for.
No.
No, that's crazy. Okay,
I was in
well,
what will end? I was in an all black show, and it was,
Blackish.
no, it was called Black Eagles about the Tuskegee area.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow,
okay, okay, I know
And
that.
we
Yeah.
toured in that, and again, a story that did
Were
not
you like
make
one of
the
the
book.
Andrews sisters? Is that what you were?
No, I played, again, speaking of like causing a ruckus, I played an Italian girl in the war who gets involved with one of the black soldiers.
Oh, bada bing.
Scandal.
Oh.
And we're doing the play, and we're like, we're already like, oh, it's so beautiful. It's, racial relationship.
It's so beautiful, but it's like you died and woke up in Jew heaven.
We're doing the play, like literally the first night we opened, we were booed. We were booed.
Really?
Yeah.
But now why?
Because
of the
people were
subject matter?
horrified. They were
Because
like,
it's
she's
just like-
kissing a
Oh.
black
What
man.
year was this? What year was this?
93.
You were booing it in 93?
93.
Wow.
Oh my God. It was like, we were shocked because we'd been rehearsal, like, free to be, you and me.
Yeah.
Everything was, yeah, there's
So
another
you
great
approve, so
story.
you approve that? Like, what's it, like,
Yeah,
what are you,
it was-
kiss Nat King Cole over here? Hey, gosh.
You're,
Matt.
yeah, we're saying goodbye to
Joe
the
Pesci.
George Gobel of our,
Wow.
You can find
ma'am.
Matt on Twitter at
Yes.
Matt Oswalt VA.
Yeah.
Right?
Vagina assassin.
Right. You,
The funniest
you are
man on
like
Twitter.
A master on
you and
Twitter.
Albert Brooks.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah,
Oh, Matt's-
a master.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I have
Sometimes
such
I-
easy material to work with now. with
Speaking
this,
of like starstruck,
kidding.
like I will literally like fangirl secretly like message him like that was really awesome. Like,
that makes me feel so
aside
good.
from
That
just
makes
the
me feel so
favorite
good,
retweeting, I'm like, okay, that was a killer.
That
Yeah, you've
makes
had
me
some
feel good.
killers, some really funny,
Yeah,
and I'll
yeah.
send them to friends too. I've actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you're the only person that I've said, oh, you got to follow this guy. He's really funny.
I hope you're not sending him to Natasha, because she would think I'm crazy. I don't think she'd have to get the
I don't
humor
think
of my.
I don't think Nastasia.
Is that was it?
Nastasia.
Remember,
Nastasia.
Nastasia.
Get it
Okay.
right. If you're gonna
Sorry.
if you're gonna have a crush on
Nastasia.
That's how we do
her,
it in
get it
North
right.
Hollywood, okay? It's
Yeah.
Nastasia.
She talks like this.
She does.
Have you,
Oh, for God's sake, people, we have to go.
okay,
Oh,
we have to go. We must go.
You can buy Illeana's book, I Blame Dennis Hopper,
Yes.
now out in paperback in bookstores and at Amazon.com. You should buy it. Also, like our Facebook page. You can check out our
Please,
website,
for God's sakes.
Illeana'sPodcast.com. Thank you, Matt,
Illeana's
for being
Podcast.
here.
And remember,
Nastasia
as we always say, everyone's life is a movie with a beginning, middle, and an end. And this is the end of ours. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Tamara.
everybody. We'll see you
Goodbye.
next time.
Goodbye.
Bye now.
Goodbye. Cheers.
Happy holidays.
Yes.
Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network. We would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network. The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.